Dylan Holloway, a forward for the St. Louis Blues, recently articulated his negative sentiments regarding the Edmonton Oilers' handling of his contract negotiations. These discussions ultimately led to his departure from the Oilers via an offer sheet, which he accepted from the St. Louis Blues. Holloway's candid remarks were made during an interview on the Cam and Strick podcast, providing insight into the circumstances surrounding his move to a new team. The core of his dissatisfaction stemmed from a perceived lack of value placed on him by the Oilers during the negotiation process. This feeling of being undervalued prompted Holloway to consider alternatives, culminating in the acceptance of the Blues' offer. The events unfolded recently, following the conclusion of the NHL season, but specifically preceding the playoffs, where Holloway was sidelined due to injury. The interview on the Cam and Strick podcast served as the primary platform for Holloway to express his perspective. The geographical context of these events spans between Edmonton, Alberta, where Holloway played for the Oilers, and St. Louis, Missouri, his current home with the Blues. The central why behind this significant player movement points directly to Holloway's perception of the Oilers' negotiation tactics. He felt that the team did not reciprocate his desire to remain in Edmonton, with a contract offer that reflected his perceived worth. This led him to accept the offer sheet presented by the St. Louis Blues. An offer sheet, in the context of NHL free agency, is a contract tendered by one team to a restricted free agent of another team. The original team then has a specified period to match the offer or lose the player in exchange for draft pick compensation. In Holloway's case, the St. Louis Blues, under the leadership of general manager Doug Armstrong, extended such an offer. The Oilers, faced with this decision, ultimately opted not to match the Blues' offer. Consequently, Edmonton received draft picks as compensation for Holloway's departure, a standard procedure when an offer sheet is not matched. This transaction marked a significant turning point in Holloway's career, transitioning him from a development prospect within the Oilers organization to a key contributor for the St. Louis Blues. His reflections on the Cam and Strick podcast underscore the personal impact of such professional decisions and the underlying emotional components involved in player-team relationships during contract negotiations. The situation highlights how player perceptions of fair treatment and value can directly influence career trajectories, even for promising young talents. Holloway's move, therefore, was not merely a contractual formality, but a response to a deeper sense of professional regard. His statements provide a rare glimpse into the often private world of NHL contract discussions and the psychological factors that can sway a player's decision-making process. The Blues' proactive approach in securing Holloway, combined with the Oilers' eventual decision not to match, set the stage for a new chapter in his professional life, one that has since seen him thrive in a new environment. This entire sequence of events, from the initial negotiations to the podcast interview, paints a clear picture of a player seeking recognition and finding it in a new hockey home. Offer sheets, while a legitimate mechanism within the NHL's collective bargaining agreement, remain notably uncommon. Their infrequent use is often attributed to the inherent risks for the acquiring team, which must surrender valuable draft picks, and the potential for strained relationships between general managers. The St. Louis Blues, however, made an unprecedented and bold move by extending offer sheets to not one, but two restricted free agents from the Edmonton Oilers, Dylan Holloway and Philip Broberg. This dual approach was a significant deviation from typical NHL team strategies and underscored general manager Doug Armstrong's aggressive pursuit of talent. Initial expectations among many hockey analysts and fans largely anticipated that Holloway's offer sheet would be matched by the Oilers. His relatively low cap hit and significant development potential made him seem like a player Edmonton would be keen to retain. Conversely, Broberg's situation was viewed with less certainty, with some speculating that the Oilers might be more inclined to let him go, given their defensive depth perception at the time. The Oilers, however, defied these expectations by choosing not to match either offer. This decision surprised a considerable portion of the hockey community, as losing two promising young players via offer sheets is a rare occurrence. In exchange for not matching the offer sheets, the Edmonton Oilers received a package of draft picks as compensation. This was the predetermined outcome under the collective bargaining agreement for failing to match an offer sheet, serving as a form of restitution for the loss of a restricted free agent. While the draft picks represented future assets, the immediate impact was the departure of two players who were still developing within their system. The St. Louis Blues' gamble, however, paid significant dividends. Both Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway experienced breakout seasons with their new club. Broberg solidified a spot on the Blues' blue line, demonstrating improved defensive play and puck movement. Holloway, in particular, thrived in a more prominent role, showcasing his offensive capabilities and physical presence. Their contributions were instrumental in the Blues' successful campaign, which culminated in a playoff berth. This immediate success validated Doug Armstrong's strategic decision to aggressively pursue these players, demonstrating a keen eye for undervalued talent and a willingness to leverage the offer sheet mechanism. Unfortunately for Holloway and the Blues, his impressive regular season was cut short by an oblique injury sustained just prior to the playoffs. This injury prevented him from participating in the first-round matchup against the Winnipeg Jets, a significant blow to the Blues' postseason aspirations, and a personal disappointment for Holloway, who had been a key component of their success. Holloway's candid remarks on the Cam and Strick podcast provided crucial insight into his perspective regarding the Oilers' handling of his contract negotiations. He explicitly stated that the team's approach rubbed him the wrong way, indicating a sense of dissatisfaction stemming from the discussions. Holloway, an Alberta boy with a natural affinity for the Oilers, expressed his initial desire to remain with the team. He conveyed that he had hoped to sign a long-term deal and continue his career in Edmonton. However, he felt that this sentiment was not adequately reciprocated by the Oilers in their negotiation strategy, leading to his decision to explore other opportunities. This perceived lack of mutual commitment ultimately paved the way for the St. Louis Blues to secure his services, transforming a promising prospect into a pivotal player for their franchise. Despite the significant contributions of Holloway and Broberg to the Blues, the Edmonton Oilers ultimately experienced a more successful season overall. The Oilers reached the Stanley Cup Finals for the second consecutive year, a testament to their established core and coaching staff. However, their quest for the championship concluded with a defeat against the Florida Panthers. In contrast, the St. Louis Blues, while securing a playoff berth, did not advance beyond the earlier rounds, highlighting the difference in their respective postseason trajectories. The absence of both Broberg and, more critically, Holloway is now viewed by many analysts as a potential factor that could have directly impacted the Oilers' Stanley Cup aspirations. While the Oilers demonstrated remarkable resilience and pushed deep into the playoffs, their recurring issue of scoring depth beyond their superstar duo of Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl became increasingly apparent. This vulnerability was exacerbated when key offensive players, such as Zach Hyman, faced injuries during critical junctures of the season and playoffs. The team desperately needed another player capable of stepping into a top-6 forward role to maintain offensive pressure and provide secondary scoring. Holloway's breakout season with the Blues provided concrete evidence of his capability to fill precisely that kind of critical top-6 role. His offensive production, coupled with his physical play and strong two-way game, demonstrated that he had developed into a player who could contribute significantly to a contending team's attack. Had he remained with the Oilers, his presence could have alleviated some of the scoring burden on McDavid and Draisaitl, offering a crucial third scoring threat or providing valuable depth when injuries inevitably struck. The what-if scenario surrounding Holloway's potential impact on the Oilers' Cup run remains a persistent point of discussion among fans and pundits. Now firmly established in a new city and a new environment, Dylan Holloway has demonstrated his capacity to thrive. The St. Louis Blues provided him with the opportunity and the ice time to develop his game, and he responded by exceeding expectations. This fresh start appears to have been highly beneficial for his career, allowing him to shed any lingering pressures or expectations from his previous organization and simply focus on playing hockey. His success in St. Louis suggests a positive career trajectory moving forward, free from the previous contract negotiation disputes. The expectation for Holloway's future is that he will continue this upward trend. Having solidified his place as a legitimate NHL forward and experiencing a breakout campaign, the anticipation is that he will take another significant step forward in his performance during the upcoming 2025-26 NHL season. This would involve further refinement of his offensive skills, continued development of his defensive responsibilities, and an increased leadership role within the Blues organization. His potential remains high, and his current environment appears conducive to maximizing that potential. The decision by the Oilers not to match the offer sheet while providing draft capital ultimately allowed a promising young player to flourish elsewhere, potentially altering the immediate fortunes of both franchises involved. The Blues gained a key piece for their future, while the Oilers were left to ponder what might have been.